Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be spotlighting Orthworm on the channel. And this is one of those Pokemon that I wanted to do for a while, right? But you know, I always have some ideas that I always have to like sequence in terms of videos and when they come out. And now it's finally time to talk about Orthworm here. So this is a pretty cool one in a sense. You know, it's a steel type that doesn't really get hit by ground moves just because of its ability called Earth Eater. And if you don't know what it does, you can pretty much read it on Showdown here. It really it just gives you an immunity to it, right? Which is actually really nice in a Ting-Lu dominated format, right? So I feel like anytime you like have a levitate, or if you're a flying type for that matter, and you can give yourself ground immunity, you know, you're gonna find a niche in regulationC, and Orthworm definitely has that niche, but it can do more than just have ground immunity, right? So let's talk about its stats for a second. Basically, you look at its stats and it's not really very impressive, right? You know, just base 70 HP, you know, 55 special defense, 65 speed, not very fast and not very bulky on the special side either. HP is not so great, but then you look at its defense of 145 and now you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is a very bulky physical mon. Does it get body press? And the answer is yes, it does. So now you have to start considering, okay, if this gets body press, you know, similar to like the Bronzong idea, can it get iron defense where you can start boosting it? And the answer is also yes. So now we have a pretty good niche in where we want to play Orthworm, because now if you can boost its defenses and then compensate its lack of special defense with something like Ting-Lu, now all of a sudden this is looking relatively interesting, right? Because now you could say, or now we can put Earthquake on Ting-Lu, and now there has some synergy with Orthworm, because now, you know, when you're hit by a ground immunity, you basically just eat it up, right? And you actually heal yourself, which is very good, okay? And then, of course, the steel typing is always welcome in a flutter main dominated meta, right? Anytime you can get steel coverage or steel typing, you can find some use on some kind of team, you know, some kind of balanced team with Dragon and Fairies, right? Form that fantasy core, Dragon, Fairy, Steel. And Orthworm can, you know, give you that, right? It can resist flutter main moves. Now you just have to be able to watch out for some like other attacks, just because, you know, the bulk is not very great. But if you can give this thing like intimidate support and coupled with Ting-Lu, it's looking pretty good. So something like even Gyarados, right? So now Gyarados not only gives you that flying option against an opposing Ting-Lu, but again, this is something that can support Orthworm in general, because now you're just making it super bulky by neutering special defenses. I'm sorry, special attacks and also physical attacks. So there's some good support tools for Orthworm, but you have to be careful, right? Because this is one of those Pokemon that again is very niche, which means it's not splashable. It needs a lot of support, right? And you know what we're gonna do is also take a look at this move right here, Shed Tail, which is actually really nice, and it's one of the trademark moves of Orthworm in general, where, you know, you just basically, you know, you take away half your HP and then you set up a sub and then you just switch out with something else, right? Which is actually really good in that sense, right? Imagine like some frail hitter behind a substitute, or some bulky hitter in general just behind a substitute, and it could just potentially sweep teams, right? Because you have to go through the sub first to be able to hit them. So Orthworm has a pretty good niche in that sense as well. And now you all of a sudden, okay, so we have, you know, body press stuff for against the Treasures of Ruin Pokemon, because they're all weak to fighting. Now you have iron defense, you know, to boost up your defenses, so in this way physical attacks can't hit you. And then you have something like Shed Tail, where you're able to just pass off a substitute off to someone else. And now all of a sudden you have pretty good variability, because now you can even have steel coverage on this thing as well, if you want, just to have something to hit a flutter main with. But it's not really necessary, because you're gonna have it elsewhere, you know, with your other Pokemon, right? So now what we're gonna do is take a look at certain not EV spreads, but although I will give you a set there. We're going to take a look at some tournament teams that have utilized Orthworm successfully, and then we'll give you some ideas from some other teams that have also used it in terms of, you know, a little bit of variance, and then we'll give you our version. So this way, if you're trying to use Orthworm, now you have some ideas on how to use it. All right. So in terms of like an EV set, you can pretty much just go bold here. Of course, you're going to pretty much want to almost max this HP, 176. Get this Citrus Berry for that matter. And then from here, you just need to go to the first bump here in defense, right? I feel like this is all you need. 185, 187. The first EV bump here in defense. This is all you need, and then from there, just 228 special defense. And this is a very bulky Orthworm. Okay, again, you don't really need attack. It's not really meant to really do that much damage in terms of that, because you're relying on your body press stuff to do your damage. And then your shed tail is just meant to pass off a substitute off to someone that very much greatly appreciates it. All right, so let's take a look at some of these tournament routines and see what they've been coming up with utilizing Orthworm. Okay, so this is the first one that we're going to look at here. So this is David Kutesh's team, the premier Orthworm team, as I like to say, just because it did so well for him in the European International Championships. By the way, this is he's also called Hamster Mania, so look him up on YouTube. He's another VGC YouTuber, Hamster Mania, and he came up with this concept of Orthworm. So basically, again, just utilizing the ground concept, you know, again with Tinglu over here clicking not only just Earthquake but also Bulldoze for speed control. Really smart idea there. And then the Gyarados, of course, also gives some variance here with the Bulldoze as well. Then here you have Dragonite clicking Earthquake. So you have a lot of things that can click Earthquake next to each other, because either Orthworm can just absorb it and heal itself, or you're next to a flying type and it doesn't really do anything. So that's really cool here. And this is an offensive Tinglu, by the way, with a choice band. Okay, so this is going to be doing a lot of damage. And then again, you have the Shed Tail, Iron Defense, Heavy Slam, there's your steel coverage, and of course Body Press. So basically, again, you can just pass off a substitute to, like, for example, Flutter Main, or even like Dragonite Chanpa stuff, and then they just do big damage behind it, which is actually really nice. So if you can, you know, consider this as a use of Orthworm, definitely consider using Hamster Mania's team. Then if we move on to some other teams that have also tried to utilize this kind of concept, let's take a look at some of these. So this was from the Mousehold tournament from Tuesday, and there was an Orthworm here, right, from Ago de Lugo, as we'll call him. So if we take a look at his team over here, again, it's a similar concept, except there's an Arcanine instead of a Gyarados. So, you know, I guess I can understand that. But here's Earthquake and Bulldoze on Tinglu, but this is the Assault Vest variant instead of Choice Band. The Dragonite is, again, also running Earthquake. And then the Arcanine also has access to Bulldoze just like Gyarados. And you also get Morning Sun here for recovery. Really cool. And, you know, Flutter Main and Chanpao, pretty much the same staples that that David Kutesh was using. So you could definitely utilize this kind of concept. But again, as long as you have a ground type clicking Earthquake or Bulldoze next to Orthworm, that's kind of the idea. So like you can imagine stuff like Garchomp or Great Tusk on teams like this, where you can just click Earthquake next to Orthworm, and those are like actual like ground stab moves. Like, yes, you do have Tinglu, but like Dragonite, Arcanine is like, okay, sure. And then over here, from the Neme Tour, which is basically today, again, the 3-2 result. But again, if you look, the same idea, right? Great Tusk here with, of course, Earthquake damage next to Orthworm. And then you also have Dragonite 2 with Earthquake, and then Tinglu again with Earthquake. So 3 Pokemon here with Earthquake. I think this is a little overkill. All right, but, you know, the same kind of concept. I don't know why Indeedee here. I guess I can kind of understand it, but you know, I don't really think it's so much necessary. Maybe it's just providing Shed Tail setup here, but okay, sure, I guess that works. But again, you know, similar kind of idea. As long as you've got some physical mons that are clicking Earthquake next to Orthworm, that's kind of the idea how you want to go about it. But I feel like you always need Tinglu on this. Otherwise, you know, it's just not so great, right? Because you really need this special attack reduction. Otherwise, Orthworm just can't really, you know, take all those hits very well. So make sure you do have Tinglu on the squad. And now what we're going to do is just show you like our variants and show you how else you can use Orthworm with some of our options. All right, so let's go back into Team Builder and show you what the Clover Way would do. Okay, so let's go back here. And again, we're starting off with Tinglu and Gyarados. Again, just like a very similar format here in terms of like sticking true to the template. Then from here, you know, our dragon type of choice, rather than something like, you know, Dragonite or even Garchomp for that matter, which Garchomp also works relatively well here. Like imagine like Garchomp with Gyarados here, and then you can all of a sudden just flip on a Talonflame here and then just put on Flutter Mane over here. So this also technically works, right, if you want to go this route. But I'm going to do things a little bit differently, but this is another 6 that you can definitely consider using. But in terms of the rest of the squad, why not just do like Roaring Moon over here? I like Roaring Moon just because it also gets access to Dragon Dance, similar to how like Dragonite can do it. and then at the same time you can just do like acrobatics, throat chop, and then over here earthquake, right? And then you get a booster energy. And then if you just simply compare this with like Dragonite, you know, you're faster than Dragonite, you have more special defense than Dragonite, you have more attack, a little bit more attack, right? You have more HP too, right? So basically only the defense is where you really lose out. So there's no reason why Roaring Moon can't really, you know, play that role over here, especially when you're like Terra flying, right? And then you go for acrobatics, big damage. Now, technically, Dragonite already starts out as a flying type, so you don't need to commit the Terra, but that's okay. It still works relatively well. And then, of course, Fluttermane over here, and then a little bit of a Mungus, of course, just to round out your options here. So basically, you have your Dragon type, you have your Steel type, and you have your Fairy type over here, and then your Gyarados and Amoonguss are going to round out your Fire, Water, Grass core. And you might say, well, where's the fire coverage? Where's the fire typing coming from? Basically, you can just make your Orthworm also a fire type here, just so that, you know, if Arcanines or something like a Chi want to come in and blow up the Orthworm, you can just change the Terra Fire and be able to resist that relatively well here. All right, so I feel like that's the way you want to go about it in terms of this kind of concept. And I'll just show you like all these movesets here. So of course, Fluttermane, because we put the booster energy here, I really like, instead of like choice specs, which you can definitely do, by the way, I still like Life Orb over here, okay, with Protect, and then just a simple set of like, you know, just Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast, oops. Actually, do I need, yeah, I do. So how about Moonblast, Shadow Ball, and then Thunderbolt, just for the Palafin Gyarados coverage. Okay, and then from here, we already know the Orthworm, right, with Heavy Slime as the last set over here. And then Fluttermane, I kind of like a defensive Terra on the Fluttermane, to be honest. So sometimes I like Terra Water or Terra Steel. I do like Terra Water. This will take away, this will also resist the Steel coverage against Fluttermane, and then just neutralize the Ghost damage. We mentioned this over here. We have Flying over here. The Tinglu here, you can pretty much go like Terra Fire as well if you're going to be like a little bit more offensive, or just Terra Grass, just so that you can get around the Amoonguss stuff. I do like Assault Vest rather than like David Kutesh's way of going like more offensive with like the Choice Band stuff. But if you like Choice Band, you can definitely consider doing that just to get more damage out of your Tinglu. But Stomping Tantrum, you don't really need it. You do need like Ruination, of course. That's also very, very much appreciated. And then you can just go with like a couple other movesets on the Tinglu. Like for example, I do like Payback over here, and you can still do like the Bulldoze concept where you can just get some speed control using the Tinglu. So no Fissure here, but that's okay. It's still totally fine. And then over here with the Gyarados, you know, you can again also go like Terra Fire or Terra Steel. I do like Terra Steel. Just to, again, oops, that's the item over here. By the way, I do like the safety goggles on this sense. You know, again, Amoonguss is annoying. All right, but again, Waterfall, Thunder Wave, right? And then Taunt, right? That's Thunder Wave. Yeah, there we go. And then, of course, you can definitely do the Bulldoze concept with Gyarados. Totally very much appreciated. I like Terra Steel here. It's pretty cool. Again, if you like Terrified just to not get burned, that's also fine, but it doesn't really matter. You're more of a supportive Pokemon anyway. You're not really dealing that much damage. You're just there to, you know, click the occasional Waterfall, but, you know, Taunt, Bulldoze, and Thunder Wave is what you're really doing with your Gyarados. Okay, and then from here, the Amoonguss, again, Terra Water over here. If you have Regenerator, then you can just go like Rocky Helmet, and, you know, just be able to break Sash on Chien-Pao and break Multi-Scale on Dragonite. It's really good. Rage Powder, Spore, Pollen Puff, and then Clear Smog, just to have something against like Dondozo stuff, is very much appreciated. And then Pollen Puff is another healing skill that you can have just to heal the rest of your team. And this is pretty much it. This is how I would do it. So if we just take a step back and look at it, right? So you have an Intimidator, you have Redirection, you have a lot of speed control actually with Thunder Wave, Bulldoze here. You're going to be going for Dragon Dance here. You have some electric coverage here. So it's a team that works out relatively well. And it really all depends on like your positioning, of course, right? This is a balanced team, so it's really all dependent on positioning. But again, you know, could you imagine like Roaring Moon or Fluttermane behind, you know, a substitute, and then they just deal like big damage? Is that this Shed Tail ability, not ability, but move is actually really, really cool. So I kind of like it a lot. Orthworm definitely has a niche. Again, it just has like a specific job that you need it to do. It's not really like gonna change the meta or anything, but it's still okay. It's relatively solid. Okay, now the one thing I will say about the rest of the team in terms of EVs, I'm gonna hold off on it because one of my tier 3 sub viewers again requested this, and they want me to keep the EVs hidden for a bit just because they want to use it in a tournament. But if you, the viewer, want the Poke Paste with the EV spreads, you know, just feel free to message me on Discord and I'll give it to you. But I don't want to make it public yet for this video just because they requested not to do it just because they want to enter a tournament with it. All right. But if you watch my other videos, then you can probably guess what all these spreads are because I don't change them too much. I kind of recycle them a lot. I did give you the Orthworm one, so you do have that. But if you want to just create the rest from some of my older videos, then yeah, those EVs will suffice. All right. So that'll be it for now. Let me know what you think of Orthworm, ladies and gentlemen, how you've been using Orthworm, and if you've been using it in a specific niche as of right now in the current regulationC meta. Again, we've been covering a lot of these niche Pokemon. I feel like it's very enjoyable, right? Because anytime you can have a Pokemon that maybe not too many people are using, but then all of a sudden can do well, it gives you like that sense of satisfaction, right? So that's why we've been doing it a little bit more than normal as of late on the channel, right? But again, if this is something you're interested in, if you need help team building for an online tournament, a regional that's coming up, or some ladder play, feel free to check out coaching on the channel where we offer team building services. If you take a look at the video description or in the comment section, there is a link to join the channel under a tier 3 sub. And once you do, you're able to join the Discord and also message me on Discord. And then from there, we plan a one-on-one Discord call where we get you that team that you need to be able to compete in said tournament that you're trying to enter in. All right, so that'll be it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.